Today's speaker is Aaron Tolson from Prince William Food Council. He's a native of Prince William County. He's traveled the world while serving in the U.S. Air Force for 6 years, where he served as a boom operator on a KC-135 RT Stratotanker, which is a refueling plane, and the boom operator managed the mid-air refueling. Sounds fascinating. He has a Bachelor of Science degree in computer science. He's led philanthropic efforts in Appalachia, Brazil, South Africa, and Haiti. He's also a leadership alumni of Prince William County in 2018, and he served on the Prince William Chamber of Directors and a technical advisory board from Manassas City Schools. Aaron, welcome. Please take it away.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And thank you everybody for the opportunity to share with you this morning. I do have some slides. Let me bring those up real quick. This will kind of guide the conversation. So yeah, I'm going to do a little bit of the history of the program and how we got to where we are today and kind of how our technology works as far as food rescue goes, and then what our goals are for the future. And then happy to answer any questions you all might have. I've had multiple conversations with various folks from Bailey's Crossroads Rotary Club, and I'm real excited for the opportunity to share with more of you today. So my current role is the CEO of Northern Virginia Food Rescue, and I'll explain how we got to where that was. I was previously the program director for Prince William Food Rescue, which was launched officially in August of 2019 as a program of ACTS. ACTS stands for Action and Community Through Service. It's a nonprofit that's been in the Prince William County area since 1969. Currently, there are about 70 employees. There are 9 major programs that support the county, Manassas and Manassas Park, that include a hunger prevention center, emergency utility assistance, housing services, including an emergency homeless shelter. We also provide domestic violence and sexual assault services for the county. We have 2 safe houses for domestic violence clients, and work closely with the Prince William County Police Department on all of their domestic violence calls. We have court advocates to help those folks navigate the court system as needed. We have a 24/7 crisis helpline, a thrift store in Dumfries. There's a lot going on. ACTS supports about 70,000 people throughout the county every year experiencing some form of crisis, and that was before the pandemic. Part of my journey through Leadership Prince William, I began to research and look into the disconnect between food waste and food insecurity. How is it possible that we are throwing away 40% of our food while 1 in 6 are hungry? That just doesn't make sense. And began researching just different methods that people were using around the United States, around the world, to redirect food that was still good but was being thrown away, going to the landfill, decomposing, creating methane gas. How do we stop doing that? And how do we get it to the people that need this healthy food? And the issue has always been transportation. How do you get the food from point A to point B? So I've checked out lots of different models. There's other technologies that are out there as well. There's people doing amazing work in this space. But I came across the technology built by 412 Food Rescue in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. They developed an app, and that's what I'll go into in just a little bit. And was just blown away with the ease of use and the statistics and data and the impact they were having in Pittsburgh in just a couple of years. And so we decided to license that technology and launch it as a new program of ACTS. Our goal was to rescue 200,000 pounds of food in our first year, but we did that in 5 months. So we kind of recalibrated and decided we would try for 500,000 pounds of food in our first year, and then the pandemic hit. And so that changed everything. So part of my Leadership Prince William class, one of my classmates was the head of the Emergency Operations Center for Prince William County. So I reached out to him and asked him, hey, what are you guys doing in response to the pandemic when it comes to food insecurity? Because it's going to get bad. And he said, tag, you're it. So it's like, just let us know what you need. So the county used CARES funding to secure a warehouse facility with two 53-foot refrigerated trailers for cold storage. And we began receiving the USDA Farmer to Family food boxes. The county gave us funding to purchase non-perishable items in bulk, and we had volunteers building about 3,000 boxes of non-perishable food items every week that were going out in the community. We're also a partner with Capital Area Food Bank, so they were providing us with food as well. So we went from just doing rescues of food that would be thrown away to now also doing massive bulk redistribution to all of the food pantries throughout Prince William County. So we've done over 1.3 million pounds of food that we've rescued since August of 2019, so about a year and a half. And another, I think we're at 14.4 million pounds of food now that we've redistributed into the county as in response to the pandemic. The other thing that we had to figure out was, what about all the folks that couldn't leave their homes because of the pandemic? Either they had COVID and were now quarantined, if they had health issues for a while. If you're over 60, you weren't supposed to leave your home. People lost their jobs, couldn't afford fuel for their cars. So what do we do about those folks? So again, we were able to use this technology we have and create rescues from food pantries to doorsteps, no contact, direct deliveries of food. And we've done well over 3,000 of those here in our community over the past year. So we have over 700 active volunteers in Prince William County that are doing rescues every month. So there's a lot of community engagement here, which is fantastic. That's how this works. I also lead the Greater Prince William Food Council. So I've been on meetings for the past year with food councils across the DMV, and all of us have all said had the same issues, and that's with food access. How do we get food to people that are in need? And then how do we sustain that? Because the food supply chain just completely fell apart a year ago, if you remember. So that's kind of what launched us into these conversations about food equity, which is really the baseline of food insecurity. So it's a social determinant of health. There's so many side effects and consequences because of a lack of healthy diet. 160 billion is spent in Virginia annually just to treat diabetes. A lot of that is due to unhealthy diets. And if we could help facilitate that by moving more healthy food and providing more healthy food to those in need, it potentially could cut down on that, which would free more money for the state to use on other things that would be beneficial for our community. But there's different types of issues. There's food deserts, which is just a naturally occurring area where there's no access to healthy foods. There's food swamps, which there's plenty of food, but it's all junk food. So just think fast food everywhere. And then food apartheid is really where it's kind of like a food desert, but it wasn't naturally occurring. It was done on purpose through racially motivated policies. And so these are all things that we're trying to be aware of and address through Northern Virginia Food Rescue. So Northern Virginia Food Rescue was launched by ACTS as a subsidiary nonprofit to be able to expand into the rest of Northern Virginia, because ACTS as a nonprofit is not going to leave Prince William County. That's not their mission. So we knew that what we had, the technology, the model, it works. It's making an impact. It's supporting distribution sites all over the county. And so we want to be able to offer that to other counties who are experiencing the same issues that we were experiencing here in Prince William County. So we're looking to create a network of donor, volunteer, and distribution partners that improve food resiliency and accessibility throughout Northern Virginia. And there's a number of ways that we do that, and I'll get more into that here in a little bit. So this is kind of what it looks like. Accessibility is our food rescue programs. So we have Prince William Food Rescue. That is currently a program of ACTS. It will be moving and become a program of Northern Virginia Food Rescue. And then we're looking at launching individual community-based food rescue programs throughout Northern Virginia. So there will be a Fairfax Food Rescue, a Fauquier Food Rescue, a Loudon, et cetera. And with staff that live in those counties that are running those programs, that are encouraging the community to support itself. But we also realize that, borders are kind of fictitious. If you live on a border. It doesn't really exist. You might be back and forth between two counties. You might work in one county, live in another county. So 412 Food Rescue is actually redeveloping the app for us so that it's multi-county. So eventually the Prince William Food Rescue app will go away. There'll be a Northern Virginia Food Rescue app. And within it, you'll be able to select which counties you want to be receiving notifications. And I'll get into that here momentarily. So this is the Food Rescue Hero Network. Of course, it was started by 412 Food Rescue in Pittsburgh. We're in Prince William County, but you can see that this technology is being implemented around the United States and continuing to grow. I believe we were the third location to implement this technology, and we're currently the only county that's using it. The rest are all cities. And we are now going to be the first regional implementer of this kind of technology anywhere in the United States. So we're kind of leading the way and breaking some new ground when it comes to the model that we're doing. So we currently have an app called Prince William Food Rescue that anybody in the community can download on the Apple Store and Google Play. We have folks in Fairfax that have our app that are actually doing some rescues from a Whole Foods in Vienna to Food for Others, and then 2 other organizations 6 days a week. So we're kind of piloting it in Fairfax already. But like I said, eventually this will go away here in another month or 2. We'll have a new app, but it's still the same concept. So what we do is we work with donors. So we work with the grocery stores and the restaurants and the hospitals and the school systems and anybody that has food that they would throw away. We try to encourage them to make sure they're donating it instead. Capital Area Food Bank has been a great partner of ours. So they've also worked with us with their Partner Direct programs in the grocery stores that they are already partnering with. And then on the other side of that, we work with the distribution sites. Who's feeding people? Because we don't feed people directly, except for our kind of no contact direct deliveries, but that's not our mission. Our mission is to support the organizations wherever they are that are feeding people in need. So we have partners that are pantries, we have senior centers, community centers, boys and girls clubs, clinics, pop-up distributions, especially in response to COVID. So we have just a wide variety, but we have about 78 food distribution sites that we support every week here in our community through our program. So this is kind of the back end of the app. So this is what we manage. So we are able to build out a rescue. So each line, each colored line is a different rescue that was built out. So you can see where it's coming from, where it's going to, what kind of food is being delivered, the time frame of it, the status of the rescue, whether it was claimed or completed or they're traveling to the donor. And we can see which volunteer in our community claimed that rescue. So we're able to monitor in real time all the rescues that we have for a particular day to make sure that the food is going where it needs to go. And if there's any issues, we can track it and we can help resolve it or call someone if we need to. But this is the back end of it. So we have a staff member that this is their full-time job. It's just building the rescues, monitoring them, answering any questions from our food rescue heroes as they're going through the process. But this is what the volunteer sees. So the app is purely to mobilize people to help us move food from the donor to the distribution site, because that's been the issue all along. How do you get the food from the store to the distribution site? The store is not going to pay its employees to deliver food. And often the food distribution sites don't have the staff, volunteer, manpower, coordination, scheduling, logistics to be able to figure out where to pick up the food and get it to themselves. So that's what we do. We handle all the back end logistics to mobilize volunteers to provide transportation to get food from point A to point B. So in the app, when we have a food rescue that's available, there's a little icon that shows up on the map and you can get notifications. We have one-time rescues, we have weekly rescues. And once you click on it, you can actually see more information. So it shows where it's being picked up, where it's got to be dropped off, the time frame. And then if you're like, hey, yeah, I can do that. I'm available between 3:30 and 4:30 to pick this rescue up. Then you could claim it and it pulls it off the queue and it becomes your rescue. And then nobody else can claim that rescue. And then it's just as simple as hitting start in the app on the rescue. And it literally walks you step by step by step on everything that you need to do to complete the rescue. You can use mapping software. So if you use Waze or Google Maps, you just click that and it automatically pops up with driving directions to where you've got to go to pick up the food. Once you're there, it may give you some pop-up instructions on if you need to call somebody, or you can text somebody to let them know you're on your way or you're there. So all that's built into the app and just kind of walks you through what you need to do. When you get there, it'll tell you exactly what you're supposed to be picking up. Now, sometimes from grocery stores in particular, we don't know what you're going to be picking up until you get there. There's no way for us to know. We just know that they've got food, but we don't know what. So the volunteer has the ability to update what they're picking up and the quantities. And then what happens is the app then calculates the weights of the food that's being picked up, which is very important. But it gives the volunteer a lot of control to verify what they're picking up. And then you would click next, and then you can take a photo in the app. You can either just take a photo of what you're picking up, which gives us some help in the quality control to make sure we're getting good stuff from the stores. You can take a selfie, you can post to social media and advocate, hey, look what I'm doing. I'm a food rescue hero. I'm out picking up food today. So there's a lot of opportunities through that. And then next, it'll give you directions to where you got to go to drop it off. It'll give you any instructions that you need. It'll verify what you're dropping off when you get there. And then you've completed the rescue. So in about 40 minutes, 45 minutes of volunteer time, you can help move food and redirect it so it's not thrown away, and instead it becomes a meal for a family or multiple meals for families. So that's the app. So that's the access side. But we've also realized over this past year that the food supply chain completely fell apart. Grocery store shelves were empty, which meant pantry shelves were empty. People couldn't even donate because you couldn't buy. But we have a lot of resources here throughout Northern Virginia that are just disconnected and not coordinated very well. And so we also want to focus on the food supply chain side of it. So that looks like food procurement, agriculture, composting, education, advocacy, things that reinforce and build a stronger food supply chain. So these are the areas we're kind of focused on. So obviously the first one is the feeding hungry people. So the last place you want the food to go to is the landfill. That's the worst place at the very bottom of the triangle. At the top is the best. So we feed hungry people. We're also doing a pilot program here in the city of Manassas where we've got restaurants donating food scraps and shells to a local farmer. So we build out a rescue and the farmer actually goes and picks up buckets that we provide with lids so they don't stink. Then the farmer rescues it and takes it off and feeds his animals. We're also working with a company called Compost Crew. They're in Fairfax and DC and Maryland. They're doing some pilot stuff here in Prince William County as well when it comes to composting the rest of the food scraps. Prince William County has a compost facility off Ballsford Road, and so they're taking stuff there. And it's kind of a state-of-the-art facility that they're building. So that's kind of where our focus area when it comes to reducing food waste. But this is kind of a good visual of what it is that we're looking to create. So right now, obviously, we've got Prince William Food Rescue in the middle of Prince William County, serving the Manassas Park. But our goal is to then have multiple food rescue programs throughout Northern Virginia. And what that will do is that will actually give us real-time data of the food insecurity needs, because we're getting feedback from our distribution partners here in Prince William County every day, every week, about how many families they're trying to feed from their distribution site. And it changes. So one week it might be 50 families, the next week it might be 45, and then it might be 70. With the pandemic. So we're able to then get a lot of data and feedback of where the needs are, where the pockets of food insecurity are, because they're asking us to support those families that they're serving. So we're able to get a lot of good information about trends and where food is needed, pockets of food insecurity, food equity issues as well. So we're excited because what's going to happen then is we're going to be getting a lot of data from the entire region about pockets of food insecurity, which will be very beneficial for us. It'll be very beneficial for our partner like Capital Area Food Bank and Feeding America, who are also using a lot of that data. But then we don't want to just stop with that. We also want to understand what resources do we have where we could push additional healthy food into our region. So in Fairfax, in Arlington, and Alexandria, there's a lot of urban agriculture. You all have community gardens everywhere. I think like 90 of your schools have community gardens there in Fairfax. We don't have that in Prince William. We're working on it. But there's a lot of food being grown throughout Fairfax. but there's not really good coordination and collaboration about getting that food to food distribution sites, to food pantries, where it can be maximized and it's not going to waste. So we want to help with that. In Loudon, Fauquier, Prince William, and then farther into Culpeper, Rappahannock, there's a lot of like actual farms, like big outdoor farms. So much opportunity for gleaning to get more of that excess food. Donations from farmers. They would love to donate the food that they can't sell, and they're throwing it away because they don't know what to do with it. And there's no mechanism to move that food. So we also want to work with the local farmers to buy food when we can through funding, so that we can help them be sustainable and profitable, but get that food into the supply chain. We're also having some conversations with Prince William County's Economic Development and several other organizations to start aquaponics here in Prince William County, which would give us 365 days of indoor agriculture to go into the system. So what this means is that we might know that, hey, you guys in Bailey's Crossroads, you guys are getting ready to do a massive food distribution. And we can get you healthy food. We can redirect food to you, perishables, non-perishables, kind of whatever it is that you're wanting. And, but let's say that there's a lot of other need there and we don't really have the support or enough donations coming in from the grocery stores and the restaurants to support you guys. But we know that we're getting ready to get a bunch of food from a farmer in Fauquier. Well, we'll know that we've got food in Fauquier and a need in Bailey's Crossroads, and then we can direct what we need to redirect from Fauquier to Bailey's Crossroads. Right now, that is impossible. There's no coordination, there's no understanding of what food is available and where it needs to go. So what we're hoping to do, what we're planning on doing through our food rescue programs, is having a really good understanding of where the needs are throughout the entire region and the food resources throughout the entire region, so that we can get food where it needs to go to immediately feed people in need. And what we're able to do is we take care of the storage, we take care of the cold storage, because we know that the food pantries on the other end often don't have that availability. And I think at the beginning, you guys were mentioning a collaboration or partnership for doing food boxes. But I'm guessing there's no cold storage there. It's not a place where you can just, store a bunch of perishable items. So we realize that. That's true for most all of our 78 food pantries. They don't have that. So what we do is we actually schedule so that we're delivering food to the food distribution sites right before they're getting ready to hand it out the door. So that comes in and it goes right back out again. And so that takes care of cold storage and just storage in general. So we kind of mitigate that. So that's what we're looking to do for this entire region. Then the bonus thing is what we've figured out by working with the Prince William County Emergency Management Office, is that we can help with disaster response. So we've been able to just explode because of our technology and support a lot of things that needed to happen in response to this pandemic. Whereas Fairfax, DC, Maryland, everybody's struggling with the same things, but we are actually way ahead of the curve because of the technology we have. So we want to work with emergency management offices in other counties to say, hey, we can be that support for you for the next disaster, for the next thing that comes up. If food insecurity becomes part of that problem, we can help you with that. We can take that off your plate and work with emergency management. So the Community Feeding Task Force is what we stood up here in Prince William County with emergency management. So we've been able to purchase bulk non-perishable items. The county's probably spent $3 million of the CARES funding from last year to help us purchase these items. We have an assembly line where volunteers can come in and build non-perishable boxes. We've had groups and groups and groups of people come in. We have two 53-foot refrigerated trailers for cold storage, again, because we're mitigating that and then getting it right out to the food distribution sites. So Capillary Food Bank's been providing us boxes. At our height last summer, like in August, we were getting 11 tractor trailer loads of the USDA boxes every week that were going back out in the community, plus all of the non-perishable boxes. So we were moving about 1.8 million pounds a month out into the community. And through our app and through volunteers in the community, we're completing about 1,400 rescues a month right now. and currently moving about 1.2 million pounds of food just because of the lack of funding that we've had, and the USDA program is coming down. But this has allowed us to really respond to the need in our community. So this was as of May 18th. So 64% has gone into Prince William County, 32% has gone in the city of Manassas, and 4% has gone in Manassas Park. And again, because we're reacting to those that are distributing food and what their needs are. So we're able to kind of push food wherever it needs to go. So that was that. So each program that we launch requires 3 staff. There's a full-time staff dedicated to our donors, our food donors, building relationships with the grocery stores, onboarding them, understanding when they're already donating food, when they're not donating food. And then we have a full-time staff on the other end with our distribution partners, understanding when are you feeding people, what days, what times, what kinds of food, what do you need? Which days are you already getting food from a grocery store? Because we don't want that to stop. We want that to continue, but we can maybe see if there's other days, other opportunities, other resources we can get to you. And then the third full-time position is the food rescue coordinator, literally building the rescues and monitoring them. As we begin to launch new programs, it's a little more expensive, but as we launch more and more of these programs, we become more efficient, and actually the cost to operate these decreases. But there's really not a whole lot of cost. It's 3 staff members and some overhead and operating costs, but the rest is all being done by volunteers. So for what we're able to do, it's actually very inexpensive model. So, but here, just as an example, by year 3, so we're getting ready to enter year 1. By year 3, we're hoping to have at least 5 of these food rescue programs up and running throughout the community. And so accumulated by year 3, we're looking to have rescued 12.5 million pounds of food that would have gone to the landfill. That translates to 10.4 million meals for our region, and a reduction of over 6.75 million pounds of CO2 that would have been created in a landfill, but was not created in a landfill because it became meals for families instead. So this gives you just kind of an idea of the impact that we can have by having this technology and this model throughout the rest of the region. So what that means for you guys, and what we're excited about, is we know that you guys are on the front lines and doing a lot of work in the food insecurity space. You're feeding people, you're organizing, you're packing boxes, you're pushing food out in the community. And what we want to do is support that. It's our job to support you and to support food pantries and food distribution sites all over the region. Because if we can focus on the donors and getting more food and figuring out where the gaps are, and we can coordinate the volunteers to move the food through our app, that means that the folks that are in the food pantries and the folks like yourselves can stay client forward facing. You can just focus on interacting with the families, interacting with the individuals, what do they need, and giving them food. And then all the other stuff we can kind of take care of and help make sure we're getting food to you. So there's a couple things that would be an ask for this group as we're expanding into Fairfax. One is, if you want, go ahead and download the app, Prince William Food Rescue. Yes, it's going to go away here in a couple of months, but we'll migrate everybody over. But it'll be a great opportunity for you to kind of see how it works. And if you live anywhere near the Vienna Whole Foods, there's rescues Monday through Saturday coming out of that Whole Foods. And so we post the rescues for the day about 8 a.m. is kind of when, between 7:30 and 8 a.m. is kind of when all the rescues for the day get posted. And then we've got some others that sprinkle in throughout the day. But if you go on the app and check the app, first thing in the morning, you can kind of get an idea of what it looks like. You can click on rescues, check them out, kind of see how they work and what's going on. They do go pretty fast usually, but definitely start checking that out. And then when we roll out the Northern Virginia Food Rescue app and Fairfax Food Rescue, then obviously we would love for you to be part of that and leverage that and become a food rescue hero to help moving food around. The second thing would be to start spreading the word that this is coming. We're hoping to launch Fairfax Food Rescue in July. So we still got some back-end stuff and the app development that we're doing. We're hoping to test that in June and be ready for a rollout in July. We also have to hire 3 staff for Fairfax Food Rescue. So again, as part of getting the word out, if you know of folks that might be interested in being part of this team in those 3 positions, definitely let them know about us and they can send a resume to our team. And then the last thing, which we've had some conversations with already, is that if you are interested in reaching out to some of the shopping centers or the food donors or the grocery stores that are in your area, to say, hey, either talk to them directly or just get the information. Here's a store, here's a Giant or a Target or, a Mom's or whoever. And here's, the name of the store, the address, the manager, and a contact number. We'll reach out to them. This is what we do. But it is helpful to start understanding what resources are near you and available so that we can go after them and try to onboard them, because then that means we're getting more food to you. So those are ways that we can help. We had talked about possibly what we can do is set up a like a Google Sheets spreadsheet that anybody could have access to. So it'd be a single point of inputting information. So we're not duplicating efforts. So there aren't 3 people trying to go to the same store, but we can keep track of that and then we can manage that on our end. So there's a lot of stuff that we can do to collaborate and work together. And then the very last thing. So obviously this takes some funding to pull off. One of the needs that we have more immediately is the cost of the app rebuild. So 412 is completely rebuilding the app for us right now. We have a large portion of the cost already covered through some other grants and other foundations. There's a little bit left to cover the rest of the development for the app. So that might be something that if you guys were interested in investing in. But really, we're here to support folks like you. We're here to make sure you can feed the people that you're working with, the people that are in need. That's what we're trying to accomplish here. So I appreciate the opportunity to share this with you. I thank you for your enthusiasm, and I thank you for all the work that you're already doing in the food insecurity space, because you guys are fantastic. So thank you again for the opportunity. And then obviously any questions that you have, just fire away and I'll do my best to answer. James.
Hey, Aaron, I got a question. It's a 2-parter. What are the number of people involved in this in Prince William County?
So I'll do a couple things. So currently we have 4 staff members. We have a donor distribution manager, we have a food rescue coordinator, we have a warehouse manager, and we have a part-time truck driver. We have over 2,000 downloads of our app. There's about 1,600 profiles that have been created. And then we have over 700 active volunteers every month, picking up food and moving food around.
And I'm going to just follow up another question about, I'll talk about the mission critical mass. I mean, there has to be a mismatch occasionally between the food, the number of volunteers, and the number of recipients. How do you maintain that system going forward?
Yes, so there's constantly this wave of, we've got more donors than we have volunteers, and then we'll have more volunteers than we have donors, and we don't have enough rescues for people. So there's this constant wave happening. So we monitor everything, we engage our volunteers, and we let people know. So if we have rescues that are sitting that aren't claimed, then we go through our social media. Hey, check your app. We've had some rescues pop up that are unclaimed, just as a reminder, if you're free, check it out. And usually that works. And people are like, oh yeah, I forgot to check the app, or I checked this morning and they were gone, but now we've got some new ones. So we try to mitigate that as much as possible. We're in constant communication with donors and distribution sites to make sure that we, make that as smooth as possible. I know James has been waving at me for a while now.
Kate, hold on. Kate, Ben, and then Jim. Go ahead, Kate.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. I've
Hey, Kate.
enjoyed our previous conversations, but this is the first time I've seen your presentation in whole, and the scope of your operation is just amazing to me. You guys have done a huge job out there. So thank you. Thank you for being here this morning. Is there some additional guidance you can give on how we begin contacting the different stores and everything? Or are you gonna, or can we put out some kind of a guideline to help people so we're not all piling on the same organizations?
Yes. So one of my staff members, her name is Claire Duncan. She will be the main point of contact until we hire a donor manager for Fairfax Food Rescue. We'll be sharing the slides, I assume, and her information is on the very first slide. I can also provide it separately as well, but she'll be the main point of contact. So what I would like, and I've already talked to her about this, so what I'd like to see is that she'll create a mechanism, a Google Sheet, and provide access so that we've got a single point of data entry and monitoring, but she'll handle that.
Aaron, if you don't have any problem with this, we're recording your presentation and I can make that available to anybody who wants it. But again, if they want to get your slides, they can use the information you've provided. Thank you. Ben?
Good morning, Aaron. This is a great program that you guys have set up. I'm amazed at what you've been able to do in such a short period of time. One of the things you mentioned was if you have the app and you want to pick up a deliver, but you don't know how much you're going to be picking up. How do you know what size vehicle you would need when you get there?
Yeah, that's a great question. And our experience has been that we kind of have an idea about how much we're going to get from a donor. I mean, because we're working with the donors. And so part of our question is, how much are you guys doing? And then over time, we begin to kind of really hone in on each day about how much we get from them on a particular day. So when you go into the app and you kind of expand the details of the rescue, we're going to put as close as we can to what we think is going to be there. And you'll be able to tell really quickly if your car is big enough or not. So, a Target or a Walmart or a Sam's Club or some of those bigger stores where we get, a lot larger donations. So we might just put in there, it might be 5 boxes of produce, 5 boxes of baked goods, and 5 boxes of meat. So 15 boxes. So if you have a Pinto, probably not going to work. So you'll have the ability to kind of see about how much, and then it's going to be somewhere in that range when you get there. So some of it's like 2 boxes, 3 boxes here, 4 boxes there, and it'd be like going on a grocery store run. It's going to be the same thing as, getting some groceries for yourself, putting them in your car, but it's just going to a food pantry instead. So we try to put as close of information. If for any reason we have a volunteer that shows up to a store and it is way more than what they can put in their car, because that does happen sometimes, they just call us and they just let us know, hey, there's going to be, 5 extra boxes I can't fit in my car. We'll just create another rescue and put it out there, and then somebody else in the community can go grab those other 5 boxes and take them.
Thank you.
Very good. Okay, Jim?
I'm interested in 2 things. One is connecting with the schools. Rotary has a focus on the schools, and we also have a grant where we're focused on a neighborhood housing center. What we did for years is we have Ben Hester's Stop the Bus. We had things like you're talking about with Safeway and the students, and now we have maybe possibly 60 graduates of the high school who are going to join the club. So there's a tie-in with membership. Can you speak to a connection with not only our club, but we have 57 student clubs all over Northern Virginia, which would be a potential partner of you. So talk about education and school system.
Yeah, that's great. So what we actually launched here in Prince William County, we worked with food services for Prince William County schools to create a regulation that would allow schools to set up food share tables. Because in the schools, part of the problem is the student either ate it or they threw it away. There was no mechanism to actually have students keep what they haven't opened, so an unopened carton of milk, they had to throw it away if they didn't drink it.
Right.
The unopened cheese or the apples, anything with the skin on it. So we took a model that's being done in California that's already USDA approved and basically brought that model to Prince William County. So we have a page on our Prince William Food Rescue website that's a resource just for schools. And what we encourage then is they can spend $180 on Amazon and get the supplies they need to start a food share table program. There's videos done by students in California talking about why it's important not to waste food, how
Right.
the food share table process works. So what they're able to do then is now they've captured food. They can use it internally for redistribution. If the school has a food pantry and the food pantry needs the food, give it to the food pantry. But let's use that food, don't just throw it away. And then if they don't have any of that or they don't need it, then we can schedule a rescue from the school and move the food to a nearby food pantry. So that's
Say,
what
for example, on a weekend?
well, school's not open on a weekend.
But I mean, what I'm saying is we could distribute during a weekend with kids?
I mean, yeah, because if you're setting up to distribute, we would just want to know what day that is, and then we would try to give you food. So if it's a weekend, we would try to push food to you on a weekend. So you get it, you hand it out, and you're done. So we are reactive. We don't set the schedule. Our food distribution partners set the schedule, and they tell us when they're feeding people. And then we try to get food to them on those days at those times. So that's all we're doing. So we're not dictating anything. We're simply trying to respond to our food distribution partners to get food to them as much as possible.
So you need to meet with me and the district governor. I see this as a potential for 57 Rotary clubs throughout Northern Virginia.
Great. Happy
Okay,
to do that. Thank you.
Aaron, one question I have was, I've heard of places not using food rescue because they don't think it's safe or something. I've heard. How do you get past that issue?
Yeah. So in 1996, the Bill Emerson Good Samaritan law was passed that protects organizations who donate food in good faith to nonprofits. They cannot be sued. Further, there has never been a lawsuit against an organization that's donated food, ever. But this law further protects them. So
what is that law and when? Say the law again.
It's the Bill Emerson Good Samaritan Act, passed by President Bill Clinton, I believe in 96, maybe 95. So you'll find it everywhere because every Feeding America, everybody has that, because that's part of the education process, is that there is no liability. If you donate food in good faith and you give it to a nonprofit, then there's no liability for your organization. Great. So that's part of what we use when we're talking to our potential food donors, because that does come up. We're worried about getting a lawsuit. Well, you can't. There never has been. One, two, even if they wanted to, they can't. So we try to provide that education and mitigate some of those fears. And obviously, we're working with our food distribution partners. If they do get something from a store that they're like, that wasn't appropriate or that wasn't any good or whatever, then we go back to the donor. We're like, hey, please make sure you're watching what you're donating. We want to make sure we're giving good stuff. We had, as an example, we had a store once that it seemed like they were just, instead of throwing stuff away that needed to be thrown away or composting it, they were giving it to us. So we've got volunteers driving, picking up boxes, taking it to a distribution site, and they open it up and it's all bad fruit and veggies. Like they couldn't give out any of it. So one time, okay, 3 times, there's a major problem. So, but we have a staff member dedicated to working on those relationships. So they go to the donor, meet with them. Hey, let's talk through this. This is the purpose. This is what we want. This is the standard. This is the quality. And if it doesn't meet that, then we need to compost it. And we can help you with that too.
Very good. Dennis, you got another question?
One other little thing I want to bring up. My wife started this nonprofit called FUN, Food Uniting Neighbors, and it's community gardens she's setting up. And one little wrinkle in it is sometimes the stuff she's grown, when she reaches out to some of these food banks, they don't necessarily want that particular product for either ethnic reasons or things like that. But most of the time, everybody has open arms. Please come our way. But it's nice to hear this organization that you're starting kind of filters through some of that, because if somebody has a request, then you can go give it to somebody who actually wants it or can use, and instead of giving them something they don't need. We've run that also. We had some neighborhood food collections, and we've gone to places. They said, well, here's a list of things we don't want, but this is after the fact. But this just gets through all that. I really appreciate the work you're doing.
Thanks. Yeah. That, another thing that we've experienced here in our county is that sometimes food pantries do get donations of stuff that they can't use, or it's too much, and they're going to throw it away. So instead of that food pantry throwing stuff away, they just let us know, hey, we've got excess, whatever, and then we might schedule a rescue from one food pantry to another food pantry, so that the food is not wasted, and instead it goes to a different food pantry who needs it and can actually feed people with that food. So we're redistributing internally between food pantries all the time as well, as a way of reducing waste and taking care of that problem where they get something that their population doesn't want or isn't going to use because it's not culturally appropriate. Fine, let us know. We'll move it. We'll get it where it can be eaten by someone else. So we do a lot of that as well.
Okay, Aaron, this is more amazing than I expected. Wonderful to hear this story, and provided us with a lot of information. I don't know if anybody else has any questions. If you do, just jump in. But
I do, Bob.
Okay, go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, Aaron, do you have other Rotary clubs currently working with you on this program in any of the areas?
So we've had both Rotary and Lions clubs here in the county and the city of Manassas who have come as groups to build boxes, to assemble boxes. So we've gotten a lot of support locally from Lions and Rotary Club. Yeah.
But by the county, you mean Prince William?
Yeah, sorry, Prince William County and the city of Manassas both we've had people that have come. So our warehouse is physically located in the city of Manassas, but it's being run by Prince William County government. So there's a lot of overlay.
Bob, let me say one other thing.
Sure,
Jim,
go ahead.
I think this, when you talk to the district governor, it will be appropriate to maybe assign someone as a point of contact within the district, because this is one of the avenues of service is hunger. And I think this is really something that the district should get on top of and do something very actively about.
Dave, you and I are spot on the same thing. I was thinking rather than a point of contact, a committee. And I would be glad to work with that and Kate and others.
Okay, I think you'll be hearing from us or somebody like us or more than one of us. Again, Aaron, thank you so much for this.
That's great. Yeah, thank you all so much.
Okay, good. And you're getting a lot of silent applause right now. Rob, let's get to the four-way test, please.
I think we also ought to thank Kate Walters.
Yes.
Thank you, Kate.
Yes, very much. So.
Welcome. I
Okay.
did want to reassure you that Pat knows about the program, is very much behind it, and has already asked Amelia Stanswell from Fauquier County, Warrenton, to lead a district-wide committee. And I know, Aaron, you've got an appointment or a meeting you're doing for her at 10 o'clock today, and then I guess meeting with their club. So Rotary is very excited and watching for the best way we can help out, but we're working across the whole district to support this program.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, just to conclude this, again, thank you, Aaron. That's a wonderful talk. Let's stand for the four-way test. Of the things and please join me in saying, of the things we think, say, or do, is it true? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build good and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Okay, well, thank you very much. Very good meeting.